This bearing is damaged to this extent. Can it still be repaired? In resource-scarce Pakistan, the answer is definitely yes. With the help of traditional craftsmen, the damaged bearing can certainly be restored to normal use. The person in front of us found that his bearing was damaged and couldn't find a suitable replacement locally. So, he traveled 2.5 kilometers to the traditional repair shop of Uncle Shawa, the glasses-wearing craftsman. You can see that the damage to this bearing is quite severe, with the inner ring broken and the outer ring even more seriously damaged. However, for Uncle Shawa, these are minor issues. First, before the repair, Uncle Shawa uses a steel ruler to make marks on the bearing, then he uses an angle grinder to cut the outer ring of the bearing. After 2.5 minutes of effort, the bearing is broken down into several parts. To repair the broken inner ring of the bearing, the craftsman first needs to remove the balls from the cage. Through skillful operations, the cage is quickly separated from the inner ring of the bearing. Next, meticulous Uncle Shawa uses diesel to thoroughly clean the bearing, making it easier to observe the damaged areas during the repair. After cleaning all the parts to prevent any size discrepancies in the outer ring during the repair process, Uncle Shawa will use calipers for precise measurements. Since the size of the cut edge becomes smaller, he first compensates with a shim, then uses a clamp on the outside for positioning. Because they need to weld this time, the fractured area needs to be beveled with an angle grinder first, and then it can be repaired with welding. This process is particularly important because the bearing's outer ring is made of high-strength steel, requiring high welding skills. Meticulous Uncle Shawa, while welding, not only needs to cut the bevel properly but also clean the slag off after each welding layer. With his efficient operations, the welding of the bearing's outer ring is quickly completed. Next, he moves on to repair the damaged inner ring of the bearing. First, he performs precise welding positioning. For tightly spaced areas, he will bevel them with an angle grinder to improve the weld's strength. Through his skilled work, the broken inner and outer rings of the bearing are quickly repaired. Then, he uses a lathe to smooth the uneven welding surfaces. For the bearing's outer ring, he first uses a lathe tool to cut the excess material from the surface, then uses a carbide tool for precise finishing of the uneven areas. A grinding head needs to be used for polishing, and to ensure the interior is smooth enough, sandpaper is also needed for polishing, followed by testing with ball bearings to ensure there is no issue with smoothness. After a series of skilled operations, the damaged outer ring of the bearing is quickly repaired. Next, the inner ring of the bearing can be processed. Similarly, here the craftsman needs to use a lathe tool for precise cutting. Uncle Shawa, using his expert touch, gradually smooths out the welded area, then uses a grinding head for fine polishing. This meticulous operation prevents any issues with smoothness inside that could affect the bearing's lifespan. If the inner raceway is not smooth, the ball bearings will suffer excessive wear, and even if the bearing is repaired, it will quickly develop pitting inside. Fortunately, Uncle Shawa's grinding process is very meticulous. After finishing the repair of both the inner and outer rings of the broken bearing, to install the ball bearings inside, the craftsman first uses a small hammer to remove the rivets on the cage, then uses a clamp to position the inner ring. This way, the ball bearings can be easily installed. He then uses a 3-jaw chuck to apply pressure, allowing the bearing to rotate smoothly inside. Next, he arranges the gaps between the ball bearings, reassembles the split bearing cage, and fixes it with rivets using a small hammer. Thus, a severely damaged bearing is finally repaired. Now, how do you feel about Uncle Shawa's repair skills? If you could rate it out of 10, how many points would you give?